Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of League of Inches podcast. Joel and Jake along for this one, round 5 review show. Plenty to discuss once again. So much, huge weekend of football, some upsets, some of the big guns flex their heavyweight muscles back to a bit of normality, while a few of the big guns continue to slide, which there'll be plenty to talk about there as well. Before we get into it, Jake, we've got to go through all the games as such. So what I'll do first, I didn't do this last week. I'm going to start doing it from this week. I'm going to go through the ladder and how it looks to start off with, and then we'll get into it. So first, the Bulldogs on 10 points have not lost a game yet, and that was a great performance that we will rip into tonight. The Broncos are second. Storm Warriors round out the top 4 with the Rabbitohs on 8 points as well in 5th. Manly, Raiders, and the Titans is your top 8, with the Knights just missing out via points differential. Sharkies in 10th, Tigers 11th, Dragons, Cowboys, they all have 4 points. And then the teams with only one win so far to start the year, the Dolphins, who got off their nudie run, so to speak, Penrith, the Roosters, and then the Eels still in last place, even though they got their first win of the year on the weekend. But yeah, you haven't heard that wrong. The Penrith Panthers, third last. It's a bit of a shock to plenty, not used to seeing that, but who knows if that is going to become the norm this year or not. If they're just in a bit of a funk. We will discuss that once again as well. But Jake, I want to ask you a question before we rip and tear into this week's episode. The crackdown, what did you think of it? There was a very clear crackdown. What did you make of it, and how did you see it happening?
I mean, it disappeared after 3 days, maybe, of football. I don't know. It's so inconsistent. It was still inconsistent. It's just they said, "Oh, let's do this crackdown. There's going to be heaps of consistency," and it was just still so inconsistent. Like there were ones that got caught, and we were like, "Okay, well, if that's what it's going to be, then well, I guess it is." And everyone kind of went, "Well, that's bullcrap. He shouldn't have been sent." I'm trying to think of it was Hudson Young in that first one. In the Raiders game, and everyone kind of looked at it and went, that's not a send-off. And then there was other ones in that game where you go, well, if Hudson is off, why aren't they? So it's just the crackdown doesn't exist, man. It was just the exact same thing as it always been. Inconsistency. The only thing the NRL does consistently is inconsistency.
100%. And I feel like the ones that did go, to be honest, I think majority of them, with everything that's happening, go. That's fine. I get it. But there was still some that was literally just a report, which didn't look any different to some of the ones that were getting the sin bin, which was so confusing, in my opinion. It just didn't set the right benchmark. And then fast forward to today's game, and Corey Waddell does one of the worst we've seen all weekend with a direct contact swinging arm, and he got nothing for it. It was go on to the report. Like that for mine was probably the clearest of the weekend, and he stayed on the field. Like, I don't know where the messaging is happening or what they're trying to achieve at the moment, but you're 100% spot on what you said. The problem is it feels like it's more inconsistent than ever, and they didn't help themselves via last week coming out with the big crack. They should have said we got it wrong and then kept it going towards this week, because we spoke about it last week. I felt like they were doing a decent job with it without going overboard. Now, because everyone was watching it, everything was just magnifying glass on it. They still, in my opinion, got some calls horribly wrong, which is a real shame.
I'd honestly just like to see Graham Ansley come out and just go, yep, they made a mistake. Okay. Do football players on the field make a mistake? Do they get paid massive amounts of money? Yeah, we made a mistake. Fair enough. I'd just like to see a little bit of responsibility taken. Just, yep, okay, maybe we made calls wrong. Okay, sorry about that. We're not perfect. We are still human beings, and we do try our best. And, these things are going to happen. And I think a lot of the public would, if they just came out and kind of took that accountability and responsibility, I think a lot of the public would come out and sort of go like, you know what, fair enough. Good on you. At least you've come out and said it. And yeah, look, maybe our team might have suffered for it. And there are going to be people that come out and go, that's unacceptable. You shouldn't be making mistakes as a referee. But like I just said, there are players in the game, very, very well paid players who also make mistakes, and it just happens, and that's okay. Like, but they need to come out and take responsibility, or it just always looks like they're just like, oh no, we didn't do anything wrong this time. We still didn't do anything wrong. It's just that we're going to change the rule to apply to the situation that we messed up with.
Yeah. It just, I don't know. It just didn't work in my opinion this weekend, and I want to try and be positive about it, but there was just too many for mine that just I couldn't believe. Let's get into the game. So the first one was the Thursday game. Obviously, the Raiders getting a buzzer beater, probably the try of the year for mine to date, 24 points to 20. Tell us your thoughts on this game, Jake.
Oh, what a match! What a match! I went into that thinking, to be honest, I actually bloody had the Raiders tipped for so long. Last minute, I changed my tip to the Sharks. I'm like, you know what? No, we've said they're a top 4 side this whole time. And also preseason, we said, Raiders are going to be a team that can upset people and they're going to lose games that they shouldn't lose. And this was one where they, didn't necessarily have any real right to win. They just wanted it more. Like you could see, they went all the way up to the 80th minute. That with that final try that they scored was just incredible. And yeah, well, I don't know what you can say. It felt like the Sharks just didn't. They had him. They had him there for a bit, and they just didn't put the foot down and go, you know what? Let's just see it out. Let's get them down in their end, and let's just work hard. It felt like they almost wanted to take the easy way out, and then they got punished for it.
Yeah, it's and I'm trying to work out the best way to go about this, because I probably want to start with the Sharkies, in my opinion, who I felt like the game was there for them to win, and if they're going to be that premiership contender that plenty are talking about they are this year, they needed to ice that game. And it just felt like there were so many moments throughout where there was maybe a power struggle between the likes of Hines and Trindle, which has been spoken about at length so many times now that it feels almost wrong to go on about it again. But it's happening in front of our very eyes. So it's impossible, unfortunately, not to talk about, because it's a clear issue. I don't know how long they can keep going like this, because they're in a premiership window, in my opinion, but that can quickly close if they don't start making some of these relevant changes that sort of need to happen, in my opinion. And it's very clear, I feel like it's Trindle's team now. And Hines, I started to see a couple of moments on the weekend where he almost got pissed off in a way over a few things, like not getting the ball when he should have and things like that. So I just feel like it's almost this week where Fitzy has to sit down and go, Nico, let's get you back to fullback. Let's get you back to that running game where you don't have to organise. Let's give Trindle the keys, and away we go. Because while they've got someone like Fanua Blake there, that back line, things like that, they've got all all the ingredients. They've just got to mix it all together now. And this might be one of the last years for a while where they've got that real let's go sort of team that can challenge. But they've lost a couple of games now in a row, and to be honest, I feel like if they had their halves right, they would have won this game.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. The biggest thing that I'm looking at when I look I obviously watch the game, but I want to talk about the stats a little bit in terms of their halves and sort of their attack. It seems like they actually had the run of the mill in terms of like a lot of their stats. Like they had more possession.
Yeah, they did.
They actually had a better completion rate overall. Obviously, they put less points or less tries on the board though. So we've seen usually your higher completion rate and possession tends to win games. But if you're not doing anything with the ball, then that's not gonna amount to anything. And they even had about 200 extra run meters over the top of the Raiders in that. But then you come down to your defense and effective tackles. Raiders had a 92% effective tackle efficiency, and then the Sharks had an 86%. So I think what basically I'm trying to say is they're in attack, they had more position, but they didn't do as much with it, as the Raiders sort of felt like they were a bit more expansive. They felt like they were willing to attack. And then in defense, the Sharks just felt like they were a little bit softer, I guess. It felt like the Raiders could kind of go through, not at will, but like they were bending the line a lot more than the Sharks sort of seemed to be. So I don't know. It's interesting because you look at the Sharks pack and you kind of think you shouldn't be losing pack wall. You shouldn't be losing a forward pack wall. The pack that they've got, Hazleton, AFB, what's his name? The starting prop. Come from the Eels.
Kafusi.
Kafusi, yeah. And then Toby Rudolph on the bench. Like they've got a gun forward rotation. It just seemed to, and so did the Raiders, but I mean, just seemed to get kind of beaten, I guess.
It was another example, and we spoke about it last week with the Sharkies. It's sort of another classic example, 2 weeks in a row now, where they've had a team that has sort of bashed them or pushed them out of their style of play, and they haven't been able to work out a way of playing to plan B, which is exactly what we spoke about last week with the Sharks. They need to learn to start winning with plan B, because they're not going to always have plan A. It's not always going to be smooth sailing and they get to just do literally everything they want. There's a lot of quality teams in this competition this year. It's extremely close. The margin from last to first in terms of playing squad and ability is probably closer than it's ever been. And you're just not going to get that. You're going to get times where last or second last come out and go, we're ready for this game, we're up. And you need to be able to match that, or at least go to plan B and get that win on that day, because they'll sit back, and I have no doubt in my mind by the end of the year, they'll look back at this 2-week period, and who knows, it might go into next week. They'll be versing a desperate Manly team as well. And they'll look back and go, we need to get a win there. We need to win one at least of those games. And they haven't done so. So it's very, very worrying, in my opinion, for the Sharks early on to be able to once again show that they can't win in that plan B mode, or don't even have one.
The best teams in the competition that we've ever sort of like observed, they don't always win pretty, they win. Right? You talk about the Storm, they can be down by 12, they can be down by 18, and you are never a feeling that you're never safe against those teams it just doesn't happen with the Sharks. Like if you're down by that amount, you kind of go, well, they're pretty down and out. I understand this isn't the same situation. That's not what this was in this game. But what I'm sort of talking about is that resilience. It doesn't feel like they have that resilience for the whole 80 minutes, because they're an incredible team, like on paper and in patches. Yeah, they have like 1 or 2 out. Yeah, but they should have probably rolled the Raiders. If I'm being honest with you, like if they're the team that everyone's saying that they are, they should have rolled the Raiders. And I'm not saying this is not any disparagement to the Raiders, because they came out firing and they came out wanting that win and wanting that fight. So they did a great job taking on the Sharks. But with the Sharks being what everyone said they're going to be and what they should be, they probably should have rolled them. And they never looked like flogging them in that game, I wouldn't say.
Yeah. I think the prime example of what you're trying to explain, I reckon, would be the Bulldogs tonight. And we'll talk about that game a lot longer down the track. But it was very clear the Knights were on earlier. They were defending extremely well. And the Dogs basically just, as if they would just kept saying to each other, let's just go through what we know. Just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. And we'll finally crack them. And they did. Where the Sharkies feel like a team at the moment for mine. If they're not scoring every set when they feel like they're on the front foot, they panic and it just starts to fall away, and they get themselves into a bit of trouble. They need to get out of that. But for the Raiders, huge win, great win. They were looking at a number of losses in a row, which would not sit well in this competition. Ricky was riding on the sideline. It was great to watch cinema TV, really. It's there's a couple of players to pinpoint for the Raiders. Sebastian Chris, I know he got the try and stuff, but is he not possibly the most improved player in the competition this year? He has been absolutely sensational, I feel like, week in, week out.
Oh, he really impressed me, especially in that Vegas game to start off the season. I remember we talked about it and you sort of focused really heavily on Brandon Savage, but I remember just saying that I wanted to shout out Sebastian Chris just because he just looks so physical is the word I'd look for. And he always has that. He's a big body even for a center. Like, and he's fast, he's physical. He always has been that, but it just feels like he's never sort of been all that put together, and he has that error in him. He didn't seem to have as many errors in him sort of recently, and I think that's a huge indicator of improvement in his game. And not that we're going to talk about Supercoach, but I'm going to quickly bring it up. I bloody brought him in like last week. He had a poor game, and then I needed to get Jenkins in this week, and I had no one else like I should have sold to get him, and I bloody sold Chris, and I'm so sad about it. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, he has been flogging it. I agree.
It's another play. Obviously, he was one of the first victims of this super coach. Not the super coach, the sin binning of the week, and that was Hudson Young, who I thought it was if that sin bin had motivated him that additional bit to go. You know what? When I come back, I'm just going to be on an absolute tear, and he did exactly that, and it was sensational to watch. Funnily enough, in the Supercoach week, not the okay, I'm on my mind at the moment because I've been going so shit at it lately. But State of Origin wise, we're doing the rolling sides each and every week. He actually went out of my side last week, but he'll be straight back in that side this week because he was sensational. And that's the Hudson Young that would be a nightmare for the Queenslanders, and that's the Hudson Young I hope gets picked because he hasn't had a great time at Origin yet when he has been picked. So I think he's a from mine an Origin play. He's one of those typical, just in your face, relentless, and it just hasn't, whether he's been overcome by the emotion or not, because he's a very emotional player. But so far this year, I think he's been really, really good. And on the weekend, he was absolutely sensational.
Oh yeah, he's been fantastic, and I think he's really starting to push himself into that upper echelon of second rowers. Like, don't get me wrong, when it says he's come onto the scene, he's been extremely good. But I think he's really starting to put himself in that, like, you know, you'd be crazy not to want him in your team if you were like creating a team or like, you know, making a drafting a team or something like that in your mind. Like a lot of people talk about, he wasn't really that talked about second rower. Even last year, like he played well, don't get me wrong, and he earned his Blues debut. But this year he's just been enormous. And he's one of those players that almost, like, if he's out for a week or a few weeks, you kind of really then look at the like, if you were tipping, you'd almost go like, oh, Hudson Young's out, or, you know, do I want to still go Raiders? He's that level of like impact on the team.
Yeah, 100%. And one final player I want to pinpoint is Jamal Fogarty, and that first half especially, and I know he carried on in the second half, but that kicking game in the first half was absolutely top notch. That was dead set, ball on a string, knew exactly what he was doing every single time, and he kept the Raiders in at that first half because, as you said, it felt like the Sharkies were on top and things like that, and it wasn't for that kicking game, I reckon the Sharkies possibly run away with it just in that first half alone. So I am a huge Jamal Fogarty fan, and by all reports, mainly in the box seat to sign him for next year, which I think is a fantastic signing. I'm surprised there's not a number of other clubs in for his signature at the moment because he's easily the best half 5/8 around at the moment on the open market, or obviously apart from DCE, who looks like he's locked in already for a club named the Sydney Roosters, but that could be that's a talking point for the Tuesday show. But I just think I'm just shocked that it feels like it's only Manly into him. Like, if I was a club, I'd be very much asking some serious questions to Jamal Fogarty. I think he's been sensational.
Oh, yeah. Like you said, his kicking game on the weekend was fantastic. Ball on a string on his short game. But I tell you what, everyone talks about the Burton bombs. What about the Fogarty bombs, man? Those things are terrifying. The way that they spin not only the ball midair, but then the ball spinning in midair makes the ball then also rotate like around. It's just, you watch fullbacks and they just don't know where to stand to catch them because they have to predict where the ball's going to end up landing because it's moving around in the air. It's just ridiculous. Looks like a helicopter wing. No, he's a freak, and you know, his kicking game gets talked about a lot, but he just, what I'd actually talk about more so is his composure. Like, right towards that end, or all the way towards the end of that game where they were down and the chips were down and they were, you know, they were fighting, and he just never looked like he was, you know, freaking out. He never looked like he was out of his depth. He just kind of kept fighting through, and look how it worked out.
Yeah, he was sensational. So, well done to the Raiders, a fantastic win. And again, that try on at full time was just that was ridiculous. Easily. And the excitement, Ricky, again, well done, Ricky. You deserve that one, mate. It's been a hard couple of weeks for you. You deserve that one. First of the Friday games, the Cowboys with the upset win over the Penrith Panthers, 22 points to 18 at CommBank. Tell you what, Combank is proving to become no home ground for the Penrith Panthers. It's a horror film at the moment. And I looked today because I was very curious about what their record is like at Combank, if there is something to it. To be honest, mate, it's not crash hot at all. It is at the moment, I believe it is, I've got it here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Riveting podcast here. I'm just quickly counting up 6-6, but then add in the Cowboys lost on the weekend. So they've actually got a 6 wins, 7 loss record at Combank, which isn't flash at all and not really what you'd want from your home ground. And so far this year, they have not won at Combank, obviously. So not a great start to a go at premiership number 5. I think Cleary showed signs that he's not going anywhere. He's very much in the fight for this team. I'm talking about Nathan there on the field. I thought he was everywhere. He was doing everything he possibly could. But that's also a bit of a concern for mine because normally if Cleary's in that frame of mind, they get the win every day of the week, twice on a Sunday. That starts to make me question the players around him finally. Has it caught up with him? And this is, again, no disrespect at all. And I did a bit of a post about this. I think it was on Saturday, sort of alluding to sort of this stuff, and a few people are saying the same sort of thing. But when do we get to the point where we can criticize Penrith for, say, poor displays and things like that, and we can be critical, and we're still respecting what they've achieved? Because I feel like we're there now.
Oh, I definitely think that we should be able to be critical of a team. Like, it's a new year. Yes, they've won 4 comps in a row, and that is the biggest achievement in all of rugby league probably ever. But at the same time, it's a new year. They're going for a new premiership now. You know, they're a new team, just like anyone else in the NRL, and they have put in some poor performances. And I think that, you know, you could ask any Penrith fan, they're not going to be happy with what they've put out so far. Yeah, some of them will be like, oh, we'll be fine. Or some of them might be, you know, one of my friends who's a massive Penrith fan he keeps telling me he's dooming. He thinks they're cooked. They're done for the year. I just think he's very negative. But I think it's definitely okay to be critical of them with what they've put out. But at the same time, they still haven't had their full strength side. And I think that the biggest thing, everyone seems to be underestimating how big of a difference Dylan Edwards makes. And I know you guys know that I'm very high on him as a player. But not only is it his work rate, because that's the biggest thing we ever, like, you know, when you talk about Dylan Edwards, you know that he's going to give you 250 meters in a game, 300 meters in a game, like just freaky numbers every game consistently. The biggest thing at the back is his composure, his ability to calm his team down, his ability to go, no, we're fine. We just go follow our processes. We've done this before. We've done 4 premierships in a row. Chill out. We're all good. That's a massive thing that they're missing. And I wanted to quickly touch on, I got it up here. I wanted to quickly touch on, because I thought this was curious, what you said about Nathan Cleary. So Mitch Kenny had 98 receipts of the ball. Now he's a hooker, so every time he touches the ball, you know, in his position, it counts as a receipt. How many receipts, if you have a guess, do you think Nathan Cleary had?
80.
82. He had 82.
Close.
But he had 82 receipts. Yeah. The next highest I can see is from Brad Schneider, which would make sense, I suppose, with 57. That is almost 30 more touches of the ball than his other half.
Yo's not there.
Yo was, here you go. Isaiah Yo was 38. He was 38. Ooh.
That's a lot. That's a lot lower than I thought it would be for Yo. He's very
he's still
instrumental normally. But you're 100% spot on with what you're saying with Edwards. Edwards is, I think a lot of people are now showing and seeing how good of a player Dylan Edwards is. And it's not normal. Like, he's a good attack player. He definitely is. But it's his defense and it's his work out the back. It's his talk. And it's very clear to me that Dayan Laurie hasn't got that and is lacking that, because they've been called out so many times, and that has to be because of the lack of communication from the back. I know they had no Toa as well. That was big. None of that meter eater sort of winger who can just do it and get the job done. So that's big as well. But again, any other year, this Penrith side would overcome that sort of a loss, and we'd be sitting here. They'd be probably 4-1 after the year. We're going, this is crazy. The fact they're 1-4 for the now, it's completely flipped on its head, is the worry for mine, because any other year, this Penrith Panthers side would be where, as I just said, where they are, but they're not. And I'm starting to worry about their depth. The talent that's coming in isn't quite up to it. And from a Panthers point of view, they're used to these people just falling into line. It's almost like Ivan has the hardest job he's probably had for a long, long time now. He mentioned in the presser, like, this is almost back to when he first got to Penrith and had to start building it. In a way, it's very similar. But the hard part is you've also now got players who have been there for a while as well. And like people talk about, they haven't had their full strength lineup yet. Maybe that's a bit of wear and tear as well, though, because it's been a big, 4 or 5 years for that club now and for those players. And maybe it's all just starting to catch up to them. Maybe there's one player I feel like has been very spoken about with his departure, and that's James Fisher-Harris, who I think has been huge for this club. The loss of him up front, he basically, anytime this sort of something was happening in a game and they looked vulnerable, he would take a big hit or he'd make a big hit, and they get back onto track, they fire up. They don't have that. They don't have it. Yo's a completely different player. He's the heartbeat of the team, but he's not that prop forward. Moses Leota is trying his ass off, but he can't do it by himself. They're just missing him. They're really missing him. And I'm surprised at the lack of conversation around that so far this year.
I am not disagreeing with you in the sense of that Fisher-Harris is something that they're definitely sorely missing. Like that go forward. But the biggest thing I sort of want to talk about, and you mentioned on it, is them not having their full strength side and the wear and tear. Of the players who won in that first grand final, I believe the only ones left are Dylan Edwards, Nathan Cleary, Moses Leota. I don't know if Kenny actually played in that one or not. Liam Martin, Isaiah Yo. So there's a bit of a spine, about 6 or 7.
There.
To'o, but yeah, sorry, he was injured, so I didn't look at the list. Yeah. So To'o as well, right? So there's about 7, maybe 8 that are still from that original sort of side, and so that's still a big portion of their team, right? So that's, I mean, you're not including bench players there. That's like your full squad, 8 there, the full out of 17. So they've got a lot of fresh legs in there. They've got a lot of players who aren't part of that, that big push of, we've done 4 years, we're all very tired. They should be able to lean on those players who haven't done that as well as the players who have. Now, the biggest thing that I think they were lacking this specific weekend, so against the Cowboys, they had To'o out, they had Dylan Edwards out. Now, we know that Dane Laurie does not provide what Dylan Edwards provides. We just talked about that. But again, not only just Dylan Edwards, in combination with Brian To'o, right, the amount of meters, like you said, that they gain, right? So their forwards were never their key. Their forwards were, like, they were obviously a crucial part, but they were never their biggest asset, in my opinion. Their biggest asset has always been their edges and the amount of meters they get coming back off kicks, right? So the way they start their sets and the way that they can get into positions to attack that allows Nathan Cleary and then Yo and all those guys to do their magic and sort of put the points on the board. What they didn't have on this weekend was go forward. They didn't have the amount of basically, forward meters straight and hard at like running to get themselves into positions to attack. And I think that's the biggest issue that they'll face. I do think that once they get a full strength side with Dylan Edwards and To'o back on the field, you'll see a lot of it start to straighten up, and I think you'll start to see them improve monumentally. But until then, I am a little bit concerned, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, and that's fair. For the Cowboys side of things, I thought it is a weird one. I've thought this afternoon when I try and write a few things to say, make points, or make notes during the game, I didn't have a whole heap on the Cowboys. And I think that's a really good thing. I'm going to pre-warn that, because it feels like, for me, what that says is they played as a team. And that's what the Cowboys need to do this year, is play as a team and be all effort. They lost Cotter the day of the game, and that was a huge loss for sure. But they overcame it. The forward pack really stepped up. McIntyre was great. One player I do want a special mention on is Jackson Purdue, though, who I think's been really, really, really good and built into his game from round 1 to now round 5. really nicely. And the credit here to the coaching staff as well, because they haven't rushed him, they haven't dropped him or anything. They've let him go about his work. And I reckon literally every week so far, he has gradually improved his performance, which makes me feel like I'm worried about his opposition center coming up over the next few weeks, because he's going to absolutely carve him and give him a lesson. He's a genuine future star of the game, in my opinion. I think he's that good. I'm rating him that highly, and really keen to see his development further on down the track and see how he goes about this season. He's just, for mine, shows the Cowboys that were right in their decision to let go of Val Holmes, because this guy is the future of that club, clearly, especially in those outside back positions. Apparently he played a lot of 5'8" growing up, but he has not looked out of place one bit at center.
Well, they say, a lot of the times when like a senior level player who's sort of shown a bit of success, they leave and fans get real mad. And, Val Holmes, I don't think was a massive exception, because, a lot of fans were going, what are we going to do? Val Holmes is so massively part of our attack, but he is getting he's getting on in age, and eventually you have to start to look towards what the future is going to be. And I think that the Cowboys, to be honest with you, while it didn't look like it in the first few rounds, have made the right call. I'm a massive fan. I'm sure that people would be able to figure it out by now, but when it comes to stats that I look at, I'm a massive fan of running meters, especially for your outside backs, right? I think that is huge in allowing your middles to rest during a game. It allows your outside backs, obviously, then they're doing that work, but they get to break more so than the forwards do when they're on the outsides anyway, so they get those sort of breathers a little bit more. And he ran for 14 meters. He had 14 meters. He ran 14 times for 146 meters, which is definitely not slacking, because we all say that the magic number is at least one run. You want to gain over 8 meters. So that's huge. It's a great running game. I just want to back up what you said as well. When you said that sort of no specific player came to mind, this backs up what you've said here. Is, like I said, I'm pretty into the running meters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players across their entire starting 17. 10 players ran for over 100 meters. So that's across the board. That's across the board. So that's in different positions, in key positions, all over the place. I'm not going to go into which ones, but 10 players across your board running over 100 meters is impressive. But that's, like you said, it wasn't maybe as much of an individual performance, this one. It was a team performance. They knew as a group they needed to get over the Panthers here, and they've come together to do that, which I think was very impressive.
Yeah, spot on. Next game of the Friday night fixtures was the Sydney Derby, this great rivalry, which added another one to their storied history, which was a fantastic game in the end. South Sydney getting the points, 20 points to 14. Tell you what, the Roosters will be sitting back going, how did we lose this one? They versed a South team that lost their halfback very early in this one in Humphreys, going down with a leg injury. Lost Cody Walker at 5 minutes in, unfortunate to those super coaches. They lost Cody Walker at halftime, who didn't come back, and there was all the ingredients there for the South Sydney Rabbitohs to put this in the too hard basket and say, no, it's done. But they didn't. They continued to fight. The Roosters were their worst enemy, though. Like I mentioned, that first half and a few of the injuries, especially the Humphreys one, which is huge because he's been one of the form halfbacks of the competition to start the year. They did themselves no favors with their kicking game, the Roosters, and this once again has been what we've harped on about. I feel like to start the year is their halves have just not been it. And I'm sorry to single him out, but we do that here. Chad Townsend seriously needs to start thinking, and he'll keep playing. I get it, but Trent Robinson needs to start to make some serious calls around. I know it's hard because there's no Sam Walker, but surely there's someone else at the club you can put there at halfback for at least a week, please, and give him a go and see how it works. Because Chad, apart from round one, I don't know, was it maybe round two it was, because they got smashed by 50 of round two where he showed a little bit. Apart from that, it's been an F-, F+. Like, it's not been good in the heart. And I feel for Sanders Smith because he's got a lot of pressure on him at the moment and he's not getting any assistance from his halves partner. And he needs someone at the moment while he's still developing. He needs a halves partner to help him, and he's just not getting it.
Oh, 100%. If I had to throw out a suggestion or maybe like a possible suggestion, Zach Docker-Clay did a really good job in 9 when Connor Watson was out. You could almost consider Connor Watson going into the halves, considering he sort of played there a little bit as a utility. You could give him a go in there, play him at 6. He's not going to be your 7. Just play Sandon Smith at 7, see how he goes at directing the team around. And I don't know, like, I think Robbo's going to have that argument of, or at least, a lot of Roosters fans will go, oh, it was only 14-20. But you know what? They should have won it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like you said, they lost. Like Humphreys went out 5 minutes in. They had 75 minutes with one player off the bench and then their main halfback out. So I don't know exactly what you do. Look, put big Spencer Lenny in halfback. You'd be right.
It's definitely one of those games where if you're not winning, it's a poor loss because they should have got that they lost both halves, and you're coming out of that game not winning it. That's a problem. And the thing is, they actually had some players that stood up. Like I thought Tedesco was brilliant. I thought he was all over the place once again. And if Edwards for some reason goes down again, and the fallback option is Tedesco for the Blues, and we're starting to slowly get into closer to that sort of time of the year, which is great, but he would not look out of place getting that jersey on skin because I feel like he's actually in some decent form, and it's unfortunate he's in a team that's getting beaten quite a bit to start the season. So credit to Tedesco, who I thought was sensational. It was great to see Billy Smith back as well, although he had some brilliant touches, so that was good to see from the Roosters. So they did have some players there who I thought was good. Dom Young, I think Marky Mark's due back next week, and I'll be very shocked if Dom Young isn't dropped. I think defensively he has been poor now for a while, and he continues to get found out, and they can't keep someone there that I know attack-wise, he's got speed, he can finish a try, he can make any half-break a break just by his speed, but there's a second part of this game that we all know is more important than the attack side. And the amount of times he's just been kept in no man's land, not making a decision whether to come in or hold his winger. They need to fix that ASAP to stop leaking the points. And I think he's going to be the one to make way for Marky Mark coming back. And Billy Smith, rightly so, I think deserves the spot or his spot and should keep it.
Oh, I definitely think that Marky Mark needs to come back. I don't think he's done anything wrong to be dropped with the injuries. Or before I think it was a calf strain or something. I don't know exactly what happened to him. It wasn't anything that from all reports was too serious. I'll add on to your shout out on James Tedesco. I've accused him a few times of sort of trying too hard when they're losing, but you will never be able to accuse him of not caring. Ever. You'd never be able to accuse James Tedesco of not caring about a win because, yes, he might try too hard and try to do too much, take too much on himself. I think can kill the Roosters' momentum and stuff like that at times, especially when he was playing for the Blues. He did that a lot, kind of thing. But he, you can never accuse him from not trying. He will always put everything he's got in to win a game. He's never just sitting back and going, "Oh, I'll let someone else do it." He is trying his best, and as long as he's not trying to take it too much and do too much steppy, stuff, like where he just kind of like stops his own momentum. As long as he's not doing that to himself, he's gonna be back in good form. We know what he can do. Yeah, he's getting a little bit old, but who cares? He took 22 runs for 240 meters, which is just massive numbers from anyone. That's huge numbers. In terms of Dom Young going off, it's such a tough one because, like you said, attacking wise, you've got to understand what he brings. I don't remember who was on it. It was Billy Smith on his inside or was Toya? Do you know?
I'm pretty sure can't. I'll let me look into it. Let me have a quick look.
I think it might have been Billy Smith. Look, either way, you can't blame your center for your winger missing tackles and that sort of thing. But I think if it was Billy Smith, then he's defending inside somebody he's not.
I think it was Toya. I think it was Toya.
It should have been Toya. No, you're right. It should have been Toya. Yeah. Look, it's such a tough one because all their back five ran for over 110, or actually, all for over 110 meters. But defensively, it's just such a difficult. He's just it's not. Yeah, he's just not succeeding at the moment. And I don't know. Would you play Marky Mark out on the wing? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think I would. You have to. You have to have Toya and Billy Smith is your centers. I don't think Billy Smith's the winger, so I think Marky Mark with his rugby sevens background, I think would be a breeze at that. And to be honest, I don't think they'd miss much in terms of meterage, which I know you love. I think he'd be a worker and he'd work out of his own end and make those hit ups and wouldn't shy away from the work. He's looks to be really fit as well, so he'll continue to do those backup runs and stuff like that. So I like it. I do. I really do. And not doubting Dom Young's, but for mine, it just looks like he's out of form. And you can't, when you got that competition for spots now that the Roosters have with Billy Smith now being fit, you've got to, and Toya has done nothing for mine to get dropped. He does not deserve it. He deserves that spot at the moment for at least until the near future. He's done, as I said, nothing wrong whatsoever. So I just think Dom Young's probably time to go.
Yeah. Time to try and put him back in reserve grade, maybe to get his confidence back. I wouldn't say time to go because we know what he can bring. We know what
not dropped on, not selling or nothing. Time to go as in from the first grade lineup.
What he can bring can win you a game, and it can win you multiple games. And that's the thing, is like Robbo has to make that decision of is he worth having a Rocks game or 2 Rocks games for a Diamonds game? And if that's what Robbo thinks it is necessary, then I suppose who are we to judge? Just some guys on a podcast, but we'll still make the judgment.
Robbo. We'll try and help you out as best we can. Before I quickly move on, I just want to say that, again, this is a game for mine where you could really tell the Roosters were missing Jared Ria-Hargraves, and I don't want to harp on about it because obviously he's gone now. He's not coming back. But it felt like a game where they needed someone to go over the edge slightly and to just test everything and just whack someone, just do something to go, let's go. And they just didn't. And it just felt like it was a bit flat. The Souths were there for the taking, there to be basically punched in the face, so to speak. And it just, even like Lenu, for instance, normally you'd say he's probably the one, but he wasn't. It was underwhelming. A forward didn't step up to be that intimidator. And don't get me wrong, that's some good forwards. Like Sierra Wong for mine was absolutely sensational. Probably best game I've seen him play. And I've had huge raps on him now for a long time and think he's a definite starter and is showing that now. He was sensational, but there was no real intimidation. Let's go, because South are there for the taking for sure.
I want to just add one last thing before you move across. Is I think what really let the Roosters down, to be honest with you, is their bench. So there was Salaseki, Feketi, Blake Steep, Spencer Leniu, and Zach Docker-Clay. Zach Docker-Clay came on. He actually was on the island for about 14 minutes. Can't really blame him for that one. But Spencer Leniu came on for 55 minutes. He ran 9 times for 83 meters. Now, if you look at everyone else in that team, there's another game where 10 people in the team ran for over 100 meters. So the work was spread evenly around the park, which means it was a great opportunity for Spencer to come on, show that he's the best. A lot of people, and I'm a person who has said this word for word, I think that Spencer Leniu is the best interchange prop in the comp. I really do. I really think that when he comes on off a bench, he can just completely open up a game. He did not do that. He did not show that at all in this game. And he had the opportunity to. This was the game where he could have done that. He really could have won the game. Not won the game for them, but put them in the position to win the game.
I think he's been pretty quiet this year, to be honest. I don't think he's had a great start to the year. And it makes me keep thinking back to those rumors that were floating around that he wasn't happy that he came out and said, nah, it's a live, things like that. It just always makes you think back to those sorts of rumors that do come out and go, oh, maybe there is something to that. Maybe he isn't enjoying life at Sydney Roosters and feels out of place. Because a lot of people in that Origin post that comes out each week, there's been a lot of talk, and at the moment I don't have Leniu in it, and people are saying that he needs to be in it so far, but I just don't think he's had a great start. So I don't want to reward that because for mine his form hasn't been where it was last year. So it's a very interesting one to probably watch for the next couple of weeks and see how that unfolds. So for the Bunnies though, we'll touch on them, and again, magic dust from Wayne has come through and they just got it done. They literally just got it done again and had no reason if they lost this game, no one would have bagged them for it. Everyone would have gone, they lost their halves by halftime. Fair enough. Pack it up, go back and get the victory next week and go again. they've got they've got Cam Murray as well that's out. They had Latrell who just came back, so probably had a chance to ease into the game for mine and maybe the next couple of weeks ease into things. He was sensational. He picked his moments and he just seemed to chase the game more and more as he felt like and his team felt like they had a chance. But like as those minutes went, the further into the game it went, the better Latrell went and the more hungry he got, which if I'm a Rabbitohs fan, I absolutely love because that's the Wayne effect. That's the Latrell that they got when Wayne was there. And it looks like straight away they've hit the ground running. And that's the Latrell you're going to get moving forward. And it shows that it doesn't always have to be fullback to make this work. Yes, granted, he played a lot more sort of 5'8" sort of position when in the second half because he was basically made to. He was doing the kickings and things like that. But that suited him, having that little bit. Like I liked it. I like everything I've seen from Latrell.
He did it at the end there. He kind of played like almost like a third sort of half in a way. And I think they needed that with Humphries out. They needed a little bit of extra direction and stuff. So that worked out quite well for them. But he is, and you know, I was just to talk about how I love the stats and stuff like that. He's such an outlier in this game. Because he ran 12 times for 65 meters. And in any other game, I'd be saying that is not good enough. That is just definitely not enough from what you want from your center. But you know what? When you put 8 points on the board yourself, and then you throw the cutout, you throw that cutout, that beautiful cutout to Isaiah Tass out on the wing.
It wasn't forward, guys. Those calling it forward don't understand how it works. It's not.
Yeah, but the biggest thing is, you know, no one's going to look back and go, oh, you didn't run enough meters, like you didn't take up the ball enough. Bullcrap. And I know I just said I'm a person who's very into those stats, but like when you have a player like Latrell, that's not necessarily what he needs to bring for you. What he needs to bring is points going on the board, and that is what he does. When he is on his game, when he's firing, you just can't stop it. You just watch and go, wow, he's on here. Sweet, let's let him cook. Oh, yeah. Incredible.
And it's his goal kicking. His goal kicking's on, and he's just entertaining the crowd. He's pumping them up. When they were looking at that try, making sure it was all good, he was pumping the crowd up, things like that. I love it. I love it. And it's what we've missed from Latrell. And I'm just glad he seems to have come back in the right frame of mind, which is key. And I'm so keen to see what happens next few weeks because one thing is for sure for Origin, and I know we've spoken about it a couple of times already, and we'll have an Origin show down the track. But right now, and I'll bet you Queenslanders will be thinking the same thing, they do not want Latrell in this mind frame being fit at Origin time because we've seen it in the past. He's a different beast and they will be scared shitless. He is just, you do not want to go near him in this.
Mate, get him on that center. Get him on that center in Origin time and just let him do his magic. That is something that I want to see. Yeah, I'll let him cook. And let him cook. While we're at it, I'll move on from him because he's, you know, we can't talk about him all night because he did look on debut, not on debut. On return.
There's someone else.
On return, there is someone else, and I think we all need to give him the credit that he deserves, and that is Jai Gray. Wow. We all said it. Why don't we have them both in the team? You know, como estas? Why not both? I think that's what it's something along those lines. You know, the old taco ad. Mate, he's one where I'm going to bring back to the stats here. 29 runs across that game for 257 meters. 2 weeks ago, we were talking about Zach Lomax running 31, 32 times for that amount of, you know, runs, and everyone was, you know, cheering him and clapping him. And I think the same has to go to Jai Gray because that is just awesome. And that's just the exact type of thing that they need to get them on that front foot. And it allows your Latrell Mitchells, your Cody Walkers, your creative sort of players to have a platform to work off. And it's just what I say this about every team. And a lot of the time you'll find the biggest issue with them when they're not winning a game tends to be they aren't going forward enough. They are literally just not going forward enough and building a platform for their halves, for their creatives, for their fullback to work off of, to get it out to those players who can put the points on the board. That is it. And that is what Jai Gray has done. Because there's been times in the past where Latrell's come out, or he's played games and he might have played, you know, he might have put points on the board or whatever, but he's then been accused of, he didn't really He only injected himself when he wanted to, and I don't think that sometimes you need that in a fullback. Sometimes you need your fullback. For me personally, I like to see a fullback who will just grind as hard as possible. Like obviously we are familiar with Clint Gutherson, and what he did to basically he did that for us for years. And I know we'll talk about him later, so I'm not going to go into it there. But the grind and the meters that he provided were a big platform for even our forwards and everyone to work off. So Jai Gray, bow down. What a weapon.
Absolutely. He look, I could say so much about him, and I don't think I'd do him justice. What I will say, and I think it's the ultimate respect you can give to someone in a team sport, he is the ultimate team player. And what I mean by that is he literally, I felt like there were sets where he was doing 2 runs in the set, knowing players are out on their feet, things like he would just go, yep, just give me the ball. I'll take another one. I swear there was a set where he took 3 runs, like the one where he caught the ball, then he took this one after, and then he took another one towards the end of the set. It's just his ability to watch on the weekend and notice that how his 2 playmakers were gone. Latrell's just coming back, probably not quite there fitness-wise, and the numbers probably shown that with, as you said, not many runs, but he just did Latrell things. Without Jai Gray there, they don't win that game. It's simple as that, because he literally held them in, and it got to a point where they were able to have enough energy at the right amount of time to get that win. And that is absolutely sensational. As I said, the ultimate sign of respect is the true team player game, and you can't drop him. He's undroppable in my opinion for literally the near future. And the best thing it looks like is all reports are suggesting Latrell's on board, but the most important thing is Latrell's body language is suggesting he's on board. And there was a couple of times, I think it was after Jai Gray's try, and I think after Latrell did something as well, where he went straight to Jai Gray and they were together, and there was a few words, and I was like, as if Latrell's just pumping him up along the way, keeping him going, and they're together. And that's what, if I'm a South fan, I'm absolutely loving the fact that they're both so on board for this now. They can go a long way in this competition.
We've both said that we're big advocates for, if you're doing the job, you can't be dropped. And that's what Jai's doing. He's just doing the job, man. Like, you just have to find a way to have them both in the team. And we know that Latrell can play center, so why wouldn't you? Until Jai is not playing to the form that he's been playing, until he's making errors or until he gets injured, Latrell needs to stay where he is, because that's what's best for the team. If Latrell says that he is, a team player that he says he is, he should recognize that this is what's best for them as a football team. And to be honest with you, I think that what's going to happen, it's going to be a struggle when maybe when Campbell Graham comes back, but you shift him to the wing. You shift him to the wing outside of Latrell there. Oh my God, their attack will be on fire. I've got one last shout out I want to give for the Rabbitohs. All right, and that's he's gone real quiet. Like, he's been real quietly performing through these first few rounds, and I don't think I've never heard anyone talk about him. That is Sean Keppie.
Oh, yep.
That is Sean Keppie. Sean Keppie has been quietly getting through his work every game. He doesn't kick up a stink, and you know what? He's been, I wouldn't say he was dropped from Manly, but he wasn't always like their starter. He was, on and off the bench and things like that, and he's been given the chance to start here at the Rabbitohs, and I think he's really taken it with 2 hands this year. Like, he just seems like he's putting in the work, he's putting in the effort, and he's just doing his job as a prop. Like, even this round specifically, he ran 15 times for 112 meters. Tavita Totola ran 16 for 139. That's I suppose your forward combination. But Sean's just been doing it consistently. Last few rounds, I've noticed he has a high work rate, and he's just doing his job. And I think he just needs a bit of respect.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Moving on, next game, the Parramatta Eels got their first win of the year, 23 over the Dragons, 22. Unfortunately, it keeps them in last place. Before we go into it, I will make the announcement, and you've already seen on the page today, we have officially started our own Para podcast on the page. So that will be called Our Para. That'll be featured on recorded on a Tuesday night. We'll discuss the game. We'll discuss the team list from the day and any Parramatta news floating around, anything we want to discuss on the night as well. First one, I'll put a post out for questions this week. So get your para-related questions in. Anything you want to know, we will answer and go into detail about that. But really keen to be myself and Jake, two huge para fans, be able to just focus a lot more on our passion, what we love, and go into a bit of detail. So that I'm really keen for that. Set your alarms. It'll be Wednesday at lunchtime. Those episodes moving forward will be released, and you'll get literally that much detail. It's not funny. I'm very, very keen to. And the best thing is, I just want to let everyone know this now. We will say it how it is, and I generally mean that. Where we'll wrap the team when it needs to. We'll stick it up and when they need to as well. And we'll call a spade a spade. We're not afraid. We're not afraid to call things out that needs to be called out from the club. That's what we're going to be all about for the fans. We are the fans as well. And that's how we'll be talking. So I'm very, very keen for that one. Jake, the win though, it was a good win. For those that we finally got it done, broke the duck. I said to you off air, and I just want to get the exact minute right here because I felt like after probably about the 55th minute mark, in my head, I'm going, here we go again. It's done. Dragons going to start running away with this. Over it. Absolutely over it. And then to show some fight, which I haven't seen from this team so far really this year, was the pleasing thing more than anything. The fact that they just wanted to fight for this win and just went literally into the trenches to get this win. It, to me, was the first time this year where it looked like this group of players actually care about this club, and it was so refreshing to see.
Oh, mate. I said to a lot of people, actually, I just said, we look like a football team. We know how to play football. And, oh, man, even before we won, like there was times in that game that had me just on the edge of my seat. And I didn't just sit there going, oh, cool, you're going to lose again. This is so much fun. Like, I know that this is more of an analysis, but I have to, get off my chest that I'm so happy we got a win. I know we won by a point. I don't care. I don't care how much it was by. We won a game. We got that off our back. A lot of people were saying we were only going to win when Mitchell Moses came back and that sort of thing. And, somewhere in my heart, maybe I agreed with them a little bit. But yeah, it was so good to see. And I know a lot of people will talk about the Zach Lomax kicking the field goal storyline and things like that. But you know what? His passion after the game, where he was crying. He was in tears about the fact. I think you could see the sense of frustration that all the boys have been going through, because it seems like they were just so desperate to put a win on the board in that game. And like you just said, like everyone on the team really felt like they actually pulled their fingers out and had to go. And you could just see the passion and how much it meant to them. And I think that's what excited me as a fan the most, more than us getting the win, was how much it meant to us to get the win. Or meant to the boys, I suppose. But yeah, no. Yeah, let's get into it, I guess.
It's all for the boys. I thought the first one I'll make a shout out to, and you don't get to see the votes, guys. You just see the total. But I'd end up giving this guy a vote because I thought it was very clear the impact he had for this team straight away as Dylan Walker off the bench. I thought he was absolutely superb, and I noticed the uplift as soon as he came on. It was literally the second he ran, he was sensational. And what we've been missing, that style of forward who can come on and do that. And he helped. And I know I got bagged out a couple of weeks ago in a comment for saying this, but he helped Hopgood out a lot. He made Hopgood play a lot less minutes, which I think suited him, not make him make so many decisions, again, which suits him. Dylan Walker, sensational.
What Dylan Walker did when he came on was straightened our attack up. That's the biggest thing. You could see the intensity that he ran with was different to the intensity we've been running with over the last few weeks. And I think you're right. I think that him coming on was the difference maker of the entire game. As soon as he came on and he started running like that, it felt like everyone else went, my turn next. Let's go. Hand up. I want to go here. Dylan Walker ran for 17 times for 143 meters, but he did that in 52 minutes. Not over 80 minutes, which is when you'd normally be looking at a stat like that. 17 times over 143 meters in 52 minutes. That is crazy talk. And like you said, Jermaine Hopgood, he only got 54 minutes in this game, but I think you're right. One thing our past coach in Brad Arthur sort of not did wrong, but I felt like I accused him of a lot was he overworked our forwards. Like a forward's only going to be, they're all very fit. They're all very fit players, and I understand that, that's what they do. All the training is for. But 70 minutes for a prop, their workload's completely different to what your outside backs are doing, and they shouldn't be getting forced to do the same amount of work. You've got bench forwards for a reason. You should be trusting your bench forwards enough to be playing them for at least 20, 30 minutes and letting your starters then have way more impact and be able to sort of do that role. So I think Jermaine Hopgood, I'd like to see him get a few less minutes, but not because I love Hoppy. I think he's a fantastic player. I think I'd want him to see get a few less minutes so that he's more effective within those minutes.
Yeah. Time to give him a wrap. Junior Paulo. Yeah. Yes. I will. I thought was his best game since the grand final year, 2022. I think that's how long it's been. He finally played like a prop. Yep. No disrespect, but I've said it the last few weeks. Everyone knows it. Stop playing as a halfback. He finally did that, and look at the game he had. Like, it just makes you question what was spoken about the first few weeks, because that's who we want to see. And if that's the player we keep getting, go for it. Go for your life. Oh. And he was saying, I think his minutes were something like 70-something minutes. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, here you go.
72 minutes. And I know it was an 84-minute game. So he played for he only had a 12-minute break at some stage. So his fitness was clearly there. He was everywhere. And one of those players for mine that looked like he genuinely wanted this win. And you could tell by his reaction to the field goal as well. He loves the club. It's very clear, but there was a lot of questioning, and myself included, whether he has the ability anymore. And look, it's one game. It's one game, guys. I'm not going to get too ahead of ourselves, but that's what we want to see a lot more of.
That is what a captain should be doing. That is what a captain of a football team should be doing. Your captain should be your most consistent player, in my opinion. I don't think that the way I see a captain, and I know that he's not the captain that's going to be once Moses is back. But right now he is. He is the captain of our football side. And the way I see a captain isn't the best player on the team. That's not how I think that works. I think that it's the most consistent and the player who sets the standard. And he hasn't been doing that for the past few weeks. In fact, he hasn't been doing that all for the last probably 2 years, like you said. That standard he just set for that game made everyone rise to that level. Same thing. He needs to do that, like you said, every week. Put the offloads away if you need to for a week or two. Oh, look, don't get me wrong, his offloading was good in that game. But put the offloads away for a week or two if you need to. And honestly, just run at the line and just be a wrecking ball for a few weeks and just get back to used to being like a prop for a while. And then, if the offloads are on, you throw them. But you don't have to be forcing them. And you don't have to be forcing those passes. You're like 120 kilos, my guy. Please, just run at the line. Run it. Pick a little guy. Pick a little guy and run at him, man. You'll knock him over. And I'll say this. Some shots were put on by Junior, and that has just taken me back. That was so nice. That shot he put on Clemmer. Did you see Clemmer's face? Oh, mate. Clemmer's face, don't screenshot that.
Mate. He didn't like that at all. Final one to talk about. Probably a topic we'll talk about a bit more on our para show on Tuesday, because obviously it's a huge topic in the club. Is Dylan Brown. That was his best game since it all has happened, and probably easily his best game of the year. It was the Dylan Brown of old. It's the Dylan Brown that makes you feel like we're going to miss him a lot from next year, and the player that we love. That was the Dylan Brown that I expect to see once Mitchell Moses was back, but we got to see it a bit early, and it's why I've continued to say I was always hesitant to let him go now, because I feel like our best chance of winning a few games is to have him in the team. And that's why that performance, he did it in defense again. He was covering, did a couple of great tackles. One was a try saver. Dylan Brown of old, Dylan Brown of the quality that probably Newcastle expect to have there for next year. So well done for them. But for Parramatta, it sort of, in a way, hurts a bit, because it just you know you're going to miss this one. You know that deep down when everyone's anger goes down and they start seeing more of these performances from Dill, they'll realize that as we get closer to the end of the year as well, he's a quality player.
I want to respond to this in two parts. So part one, Dylan Brown absolutely smashed it on the weekend. I thought that he had a great game. I thought that what he seemed to do was his running game was where he really put his emphasis on. And I saw a few people saying, oh, maybe he's running too much. No, he's not. He's not running too much because he's a 5'8". And 5'8" need to do that to get themselves into the game and to try and break the game open. And I think that's exactly what he needed to do. And it's what he's needed to do and have his role be since the start of the year, to be completely honest with you. I understand that wasn't maybe possible with the start, how, the injuries and the things we've had, and that is what it is. But the way he played on the weekend was exactly what we were looking for the last year, to be honest with you. Part two of this. One of the biggest things with Dylan Brown that we have talked about for years now is consistency. Please just perform like that next week. Please. I'm begging you, man. Just do the same thing you just did again, instead of just coming back and going into your shell next week, which has happened. I hope that boosts his confidence and he steps up and goes, right, now let's take it in from here. And I hope that every player does the same thing. And I hope that jumpstarts our season. Maybe, I have to have a little hope because they've given me that. That's what they do. They've given, and I hope they giveth but do not taketh away. Before you move on, there's one player we have not shouted out, but he needs one, and that is Isaiah Iongi. Isaiah Iongi deserves a shout out. This young 4-game-in player was everywhere on the weekend. He looked like he absolutely desperately wanted to win it, and I think the way I see it, I reckon he saw Gutho. He's gone, you know what, I need to show what I've got. A bit of a young ball situation. He's gone, I need to show what Parramatta is getting with me that they're not getting with him, and he's come out. He's just done such an awesome job. Not only just the consistency that we've sort of grown accustomed to, but that little bit of razzle dazzle that we all know we all expect and sort of hope that he has. He's got it. He's got it, and let's see more of it.
And I hope the fans, and I was going to bring this up on Tuesday night, but I hope the fans don't get into too much about like that pass towards the end of the game, which was a crucial play at the time. But what I like about that, he's got the confidence to chase the game and come up with those moments because he's going to continue to learn from it. And I hope the clubs gets behind him. I hope Rolls and stuff and the captains and all that, the senior players, and just continue to egg him on because trust me, he'll start to pull them off more often than not as he continues into this career of his, and will reap the benefits. Parramatta will reap the benefits of that. So just be in his corner, stick with him. It's going to start to turn, and it obviously started to turn on the weekend where a few of his plays did come off. A couple didn't, but they got the win. Get the confidence up, keep going from there. But it's funny to say it because Parramatta won the game, but for mine, didn't have the man of the match. For mine, the man of the match was Clint Gutherson, and it was it's like the rugby league gods. Whenever they talk about it, it's like they are literally a real thing because you could not have scripted that any better. You couldn't have scripted. Gutho was instrumental in his side. He got 2 tries, smashed it in front of the old crowd, but then Parramatta got the victory and Lomax kicked the field goal. Like that's cinematic. That's what I love about this game. But Gutho was absolutely sensational, and I don't want anyone to say otherwise because he was, for mine, the man of the match. Carried the Dragons on his back because if I'm being honest, I think a lot of the Dragons are actually really average, and that's why they lost this game because before Para did have that comeback, Dragons should have been up by more. They should have been up by more and probably had the game won, to be honest, won and buried. And there was times I was worried they're going to go on with a score. They're just crucial plays, crucial errors kept Parramatta in it. And there was a part of me that felt for Guth a little bit because he was trying his ass off, but didn't feel like anyone was going with him.
Oh, I'm pretty sure he's used to that, to be honest with you, Joel. I don't think that he's unused to that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he knows what that feels like. And I think, you know what, he's at combat, so it probably felt like home, to be honest with you. But no, look, I agree with you. I think that I'm not going to say I think he deserved man of the match because I think you could pick any one of probably 3 Eels players who I think really stepped up for us that got us the win, and I think that's the biggest contributor to where you'd put a man of the match. They didn't get the win, the Dragons. Don't get me wrong, I fully agree with you in the sense that he was carrying them even close to that victory. I don't disagree with that at all. He was their man of the match, and that's not even close. There was no one else you could even consider for it. I think the 2 tries he did get, if I'm being really brutally honest, was soft. His first one was abysmal. His first one was just pathetic from us defense. And then his second one, where he scooted over to score, we should have absolutely wrapped that ball up. There's no reason he should have. There was no reason. Or Kartoga was still getting up. That's what he pounced on, the fact that Kartoga was still getting up off the floor. So I understand that. And even if he had made that tackle, you know what? I'm actually quite glad he scored, because if not, Kartoga got sent. Yeah, 100%. He's in the bin, 100%. So I'm actually quite glad that happened. But yeah, no, you're right. There's no one else I can really name from the Dragons where I kind of go, yep, they smashed it. And if there's anything, I'd actually like to mention that he's done this, and this is a big thing I said he needed to work on in the preseason when we talked about him. Lachlan Ilias, man, pretty much one of your only jobs when you kick is for the ball to stay in the field of play. That's like the biggest, most important thing. And like, you did it for the Rabbitohs a lot. Keep the look. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you kicked it out because you're versing us. But I'm just gonna say it. Keep the ball in the field of play, man. It's the number one most important thing. Like, you weren't gaining anything by putting it that close to the sideline. I understand you're young and everything like that, but man, put it in the middle if you need to. I don't care. Whatever you got to do, just keep it deep and keep it away from your try line. All you did was open it up for us, and I appreciate that. So thank you. But you know, I don't know. I hope he needs. I feel like Ilias lacks confidence. I don't know what it is. Their halves, they need something in the halves to take them a step further in those games.
They're not a top 8 team with this current halves pairing. They're just not going to be there at the end of the year because of this. And we literally said it in our season preview and stuff for the Dragons, and it's just happening. Calling a spade, and just going to be out with it. The halves just aren't it. And I know Ellis is copping a heap, but to be fair, I don't think Flanagan's been that good either. I really don't. And even on the weekend, he was not anywhere. And it was just the Gutho show for the Dragons. And I think Cook wasn't great. There's just really, I just think it was a really poor performance by a majority of that Dragons side, which was crazy in itself. So they just needed a few of them to have the same form as they showed the week before against the Melbourne Storm, and they would have won the game. They would have had that game won after 55 minutes. For no shadow of my doubt, they would have had the game won. But their poor 100%. Performance kept the Eels in it. So, yeah, that halves pairing, not good.
I'll quickly throw this in. They should move heaven and earth to get Daly Cherry Evans in for next year. They should absolutely... They should move heaven and earth. They should get him across. They want that short. What Flanagan said was they want a short-term result. That's why they got Gutho. That's why they got Cookie. That's why they got the players. They did Val Holmes. He wants short-term success for long-term gain. DCE straight away needs to be in that team. They need to try their best. They need to move. They need to do what they need to do.
They can't do it. Next game up, the Queensland Derby. The Dolphins got their first win up 36 points to 10. I'm going to be honest, I was a bit meh about this game. It was just sort of, and no disrespect to the Dolphins, that they played a good game. They were very desperate. They were, for mine, from the kickoff, the better side, and they just continued on. They were relentless with it, and they got a very much deserved 2 points. It was a really, really good performance by them. A team effort. We've said that a couple of times so far tonight, but it was another team effort where there was individuals that, yeah, they definitely had a good game, but I think there was really individuals who were absolute. Like, for mine, Daniel Safidi was huge in the middle for them. He really set a platform that the Dolphins went from, and that was great to see. Katoa still going from step to step and being that player. I thought Plath was great back into that lock position, which I think now Christian Wolf has a bit of a question there to answer, because I feel like I'd be leaving Maxi Plath there and putting Gilbert back to maybe the second row and trying that for a little bit, because I just can't move Max Plath from lock. I think from last year where he was so good there for him, and then again he was good this weekend and they got the win, I'd have Plath as my lock moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest thing he brings is that sort of smaller, more agile style forward, which a lot of teams need, especially when you've got sort of bigger props. You need to have that player that, and their second rows are quite agile, but I mean, like, they need to have that sort of lock that brings a bit of leg speed in the ruck, especially in attack. Like, they sort of bring that. They're getting to the advantage line faster. They're getting a bit of a roll on. They get yourself, your props take your big hits and they take the brunt of it. And then you kind of have your lock to either do a bit of ball playing, which Max Plus can do, or to kind of hit that advantage line and then get up a bit faster from there. So I'd be keeping him there as well. I agree. I think he needs to stay there. In terms of, I kind of agree with you. This game didn't wow me. But I'm going to bring it back to the stats again. Okay, I'm going to do this again. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 players this time. Okay, and then 3 that were in the 95. So what's that? That's 12. There were 12 players with over 90 meters ran. So 9 of those had over 100 meters, and by a fair bit. And then 3 of them were in the 90-meter range. So it was another example of a whole team effort, similar to the sort of Cowboys game, except I think that the Dolphins did it a little bit better, and it was against possibly pretty definitely a worse team than the Panthers. That was the biggest thing for me is, again, no individual stood out because it was such a team performance. And I think that the Dolphins need to do more of that if they want to get more wins on the board, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No, absolutely spot on. There was one moment in the game before we go on to the Titans. Obviously, Tino was Simbin. What I don't get, though, is Felice Kafusi didn't even get sent to the HIA for a HIA, which I was sitting there thinking, what's just happened? Like, okay, fair enough, Tino's in the bin, but have we just all of a sudden ignored the protocols and then what happens? Because Felice should be there getting it. He looked like for mine, copped it a decent amount, and that needed a HA, and it just didn't happen. I couldn't believe he just stayed on the field.
Direct forcible contact to the head. If a player gets sent, the other player should be off. The other player should be off. It's another example of inconsistency in the NRL. Like, we can keep talking about this every week, but it's going to keep happening. And that's the biggest thing that the fans, I feel like, are just so over. Just stop being inconsistent with what, like, you have a basic protocol, follow it. Simple as, like, especially when you have a guy stumbling around on the field, man, he's got to go off and get his head checked, Yeah. Like, he probably wouldn't have passed it, if I'm being honest with you. I don't know. Just, it's such a difficult thing. Like, just start getting it. Get it right. Get it right. You're right. I was dumbfounded.
The Titans, it was such a poor performance. And it just keeps me going back to the fact that what are they trying to achieve at this club? Because how do you go from the game you had the week before when you should be riding high, all the momentum, you had a really good win against the Roosters in Sydney, you get to go home, you're building up a fan base, you're doing all that, and you give them that. You're given that performance, and you want the game here to grow, on the Gold Coast to grow. You want the fans to turn up. I don't blame the Titans fans for not turning up because they're used to this by now. And I'm on a couple of their chats and things like that. I've got a couple of Titans mates and stuff, and they all say it. They just laugh almost now. And they're just, whenever these performances come, they're just like, oh, yeah, we expect it. Like, imagine having that as your team, that you expect this to happen. It's almost expected after a win like the one. Oh, yeah. Well, speaking to the converted, but yeah, after a good win, that's literally, you almost know after that win, we're going to lose the week after. Like the mindset of the playing group at the moment is shit. Like it's got to be called out. It is shit. And it's just not the way it should be. And I want to call a player out here because David Fafita played 65 minutes according to the NRL app, 5 hit-ups for 57 runs. What are you doing?
People wonder why he's been coming off the bench.
You're an Origin class forward, apparently. What are you doing? And I know there was Cole Healer said like the off-season surgery things that he's getting eased back. But come on. It's round 5. If he wasn't ready to go, and why are they picking him? He's out there. He's not even looking for the ball. And they're in deep need of these sorts of games for someone, apart from someone named Tino Fa'asul-Malawi, who can't do this every single week. They need other people like your David Fafita, who said last year he wanted to stay to win a premiership with them. I'll got a newsflash for you. I don't even think they won't win a comp while David Fafita's at that club. He's not it. And it's a weird one to say. It's a very bold prediction. I don't reckon he'll be there next year. If the Titans are fair income, they find a way to just go, it's not working, let's move on. Because then you look at the other edge forward, Beau Fermor, who has just been sensational. I feel like very consistent, does his work week in, week out, very consistent, probably on half of what David Fafita's on, and he's clearly doing a much better job. That's the worry. You can't build anything while you've got that there at your club.
He is very similar to me with another player, and I don't want to talk too much about the Eels, but I'm going to, in Sean Lane, in that everyone seems to remember all the time his best games, right? Everyone seems to go, oh, yeah, he's still this player, he's still this, he's still that. And don't get me wrong, David Fafita is young enough where he can still find that form. He can still do that job, but he just isn't. And he hasn't done it for a long time, to be honest with you. Yeah, he can break a game apart, but how often does he do that? He doesn't. Not anymore. It's been too long. There's a reason Billy Slater didn't pick him for Origin. There's a big reason why he didn't pick him for Origin. Actually, no, you know what? There's 2 big reasons why I didn't pick him for Origin. One, lazy. He is lazy in defense, but he at least if you're lazy in defense and you make up with it with, your offense and you can blame the excuse on, I was buggered from all the runs I was taking. What excuses do you have? None. Second reason is lazy. Reason number 1. Reason number 2, he just doesn't look interested in being there, man. And like you said, he said it, I'm going to come back because I want to win a comp with the Titans. You want to win a comp with the Titans? Or do you mean you want to be part of the team of the Titans that wins a comp? Because if you want to sit on the bench while they do all the work, then you might be better off because you need to get on the field. You finally got to start. Yeah, it was a big contentious point with everyone. Okay, you got your start. What'd you do with it? Nothing. Earn the badge. Every player on every team, when they take that field, has to earn the badge, and you are no different. Just because your pay packet is higher than everyone else's, do better. Your team can win if you put the effort in. Everyone else is.
I agree. And the final matter on this is it was just a typical Titans performance, and that's the biggest insult.
I did actually have one thing. Yeah, you said that earlier, and I meant to sort of mention something real quick. They had 45% of the possession, and they made the same amount of errors, funnily enough, as the Dolphins, which I'm sure surprises people, but 9 penalty conceded to 4 is a massive difference. A blemish on their sort of them there. The one thing I thought you might find funny, one statistic, 27 dummy passes to the Dolphins, 1. They dummied 27 times. The Dolphins dummied 1 time. We know the difference. That was it, boys. We figured it out.
Oh, wow. Well, the big brother, I guess, the Brisbane Broncos had a great win against the West Tigers, 46 points to 24. The dancing was happening. There was a lot of tries in this one. For the Broncos, I was very impressed. I thought it was a very mature performance once again from this team, who is learning week by week how to play under Madge and the Madge style, and I think they're just getting better at this, and it's quite scary. It's getting to the stage now where we've got to start thinking these guys are a genuine threat this year with the players that they've got there. As long as they remain healthy at the right time of year, I don't see them not being anywhere but a contender, in my opinion. Fell for Piakura. I made a sort of a joke on our page where I said he's always sin bin. Like it feels like he's just every game he gets a sin bin or he gets a HIA, was what I said at the start of the contest. He had the sin bin, and then unfortunately we've seen what happened towards the end. So I hope he's okay. I hope the big fella's doing well. You never like to see players in that sort of state. So shout out to him. Hope he's doing well. Reynolds with the Hemi concern. There was a lot of jokes around about it just being a minor one. He wanted an early mark, things like that. But keep an eye on that one. Who knows? He'll make a big difference if he's out, because I think he's been really good to start the year. His kicking game, again, we talk about the kicking game of Fogarty, but he's just been sensational as well. We already know that. He really does. That try score, that was sensational. I love the old chip over the top, regather score. I love those tries. It gives me flashbacks to Hayne against the Tigers back in 2009, those sorts of vibes. But again, very mature performance by the Broncos.
Yeah, I think going into this game, I never really felt like the Tigers kind of stood a chance, even with all the improvement that they've had and everything going along. They're still developing. They're still developing into a top 8 side for mine. And especially with that sort of leadership role, which seems like we need from Luai, maybe even that hype man sort of style role. It just kind of felt like that was something that they kind of were missing there. The two youngest, a lot of the storylines were about like the two youngest halves pairing going up against the two oldest halves pairing in the competition. It was a bit interesting. But you could sort of see, you could see the experience makes the difference. And that's something that just is going to happen over time. Players learn how to win games, especially Adam Reynolds and Ben Hunt, who both, have played in grand finals and have heaps of experience playing in the Origin arena and whatever it be. They should have been winning that game. They had the forward pack to do it. They had the halves to do it. They had everything to do it. They should have won that game. And I think that the score is pretty reflective of where both teams are kind of at for the season, if I'm being honest with you. It feels like the West Tigers, while having improved and might get near the 8, they're still not a threat to the competition at all. And they may develop going into the season. Their combinations and all this may develop going into the season, and who knows. But, I feel like right now this scoreline feels like exactly where they sit for the season. Adam Reynolds, absolutely unbelievable. But I thought you might find something interesting. I went through the team stats. There is not a single stat that really stands out on either team's end. And I would have thought maybe even, effective tackles. But no, both teams had 85% effective tackles. So I think if I'm being honest with you, the main difference, even, there was even more errors made by the Broncos and penalties conceded. They actually conceded more penalties. So it's a bit interesting that the scoreline was what it was. I think that they were just more effective with the ball that they had. And that's it. That's the difference. That's the difference the halves made and the forward pack made.
Well, I actually feel like the Tigers, especially for the first half, were really good. And I remember I mentioned, I put it in my notes actually, that I was thinking this is a serious footy side now, this West Tigers outfit. But then obviously the second half just totally lost it, totally lost control. And maybe, again, that was probably because of the inexperienced halves helped a lot with that. But even defensively, the first half, they were turning up for each other. They were making the desperate plays. I was really encouraged by what I've seen by the Tigers. And obviously, again, it fell away. It did what they did. But there was still signs. If I'm a West Tigers fan, I'm not all out and, oh, no, this is horrible. I'm actually thinking it's quite a positive result for us. And it shows to me that they've still come a long way from where they are. I know it sounds crazy that they conceded 46 points, but it was a different performance. It didn't feel like a smashing. Like it feels weird to say because it was. But it wasn't, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I do. I get what you're trying to say. Like, it wasn't... It was a different performance in the way that they've been winning. the Broncos, yeah, it was just a different performance in the way that they've been winning games. And then, like you said, the Tigers, yeah, they fell away. And I think maybe that was a leadership issue with, like I said, they didn't have that stability and that, they could concede the trial too. And then that Luai in their ear going, boys, don't stress, go through our processes. We're going to be fine. We're going to be sweet. And I think that over the year, as they start to win more games, and I think that they will win more games, the Tigers, that will be, they're a team, don't forget, that have got 3 wooden spoons in a row, right? So they're a team that have no confidence. Their confidence doesn't exist, or at least that what didn't at the start of the season, right? They've now won 2 games at this point, I believe. They've won 2 games, which is one less than what they won last year. Something along those lines. Like, they didn't win many last year, or the year before. Either way, they haven't been a team that have been able to play with confidence. And I think having confident players come across that they can rely on is going to make the world of difference. And I just think that they need more time to develop. They were going up against, again, a top 1, 2, 3, 4 sort of side. I think that they showed that they have grit. They showed that they can, take it to them in that first half. And yeah, they fell away in the second half, but that doesn't define what their season's going to be, I don't think.
I think you're spot on. One final shout out for the big men of the Broncos. I thought Paddy Carrigan and Xavier Willison, his stint when he came on was massive. And I think Carrigan, his platform he laid was remarkable. Hate it for my super coach because it was Payne Haas's week to have an easier night of it. But
I finally captained him.
Oh, tell me about it. But it's the story of my super coach. I'm over it. I'm over the game this year. I'm done with it.
Okay,
yeah,
I see.
Both props are, as I said, sensational.
I agree. Tao May's been probably the best prop this year, other than Payne Haas. They've both probably been the 2 best props in the game this year. It was a fascinating sort of clash, but it sucked that Payne Haas didn't get those minutes to do it. But I get why they didn't feel that they needed him out there, and I think that better off letting him rest because they worked him pretty hard over the last few weeks. It's pretty good. I think not much more to say about it. The clash wasn't necessarily that what I expected it to be, but how scary is it that, like you said, well, we've talked about it before, where Paddy Carrigan goes off, you have Payne Haas go off, and then in comes Xavier Willison. Like, that's just wrong, man. That's just not okay.
Unfair.
It's just unfair. This big 7 foot.
He's massive.
Oh man, whatever he is, he's huge. Yeah,
he's massive. Sunday games, the Melbourne Storm. What we watched them beat or smash the Manly Seagulls, 48 points to 24. Now, unfortunately, Manly fell into the trap. Now we know this from Craig Bellamy coach sides. The Melbourne Storm, if they lose, they're coming off a loss. One thing you need to make sure you do is match them early, and they did not do that. Manly, the Storm came out with an absolute onslaught. All of a sudden, you're looking at the clock going, holy crap, what have we just walked into? And they were at home. They were at Brookie. That was the hardest part for it. Then you're thinking, wow, we're gonna go up this big mountain. The crowd's been taken out of it. I know they did get a couple of tries and the crowd had to get back into it, but for mine, Melbourne were always in control of this. Jerome Hughes makes a huge difference to this team. I think we need to start realizing he's just the general of this football team moving forward now. And I love the fact that throughout the game, all 4 of the spine had their moments, which just continues to show do not ever underestimate this team. Whether you, I don't know why you would. You're stupid if you do, but they showed at different times of this game that they have just got absolute stars at their disposal who can just break a game wide open any chance they want.
Oh, absolutely. I think the biggest thing that Bellamy would have been saying to them before the game, like you said, was just take the crowd out of it. And we all know, and they're the team that can do it too. If you let them get a good start on you, you do not win that game. If you let them get ahead of you early, you don't catch up. It just doesn't happen because they just have too much firepower from all over. And when they get into that mood where they're like, sweet, we can have a little bit of creativity, we can, chance their arm a little bit in different areas, and they just start to do that. Because I think that they're a team that they have confidence in themselves, but once they are in a game and then they get confidence in themselves on top of that, oh man, watch out. Just get out of their way, call the game because it's over. It gave me a little. I was just going to say, it gave me a little bit of PTSD from that first game we had against them. To be honest with you, it just looked like Manly had no answers, and it felt the same. Like it felt like the biggest difference there, line speed. They were just all over them.
Oh, definitely. I want to give a shout out to Stefano Utoikamanu, who I thought was brilliant today. So, again, wrap the big four, but they can't do what they do unless their forwards are going forward. And Josh King gets a lot of raps, I think, and rightly so. He's an underachiever, but we love him on this page, and I think a lot of you know how we rate him. But I think that this was the game for mine where Stefano really established himself as a Melbourne Storm player. He had a bit of an aura about him, and I loved it. I love that from him, and I think he's just now getting into what he needs to do at the Storm, and they're starting to give him that little bit more of a role to do, and it suits him down to a T.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's definitely a hard worker. We know that from his time in the Tigers, but he never really lived up to his potential there. And I think it's still going to take a little bit of time. It is, because I even remember when they got Sean Bloor across, the same sort of thing happened, where we knew what type of player he could be, but he was never going to hit that potential playing where he was. And they've done it to players in the past. They've done it to heaps of players in the past. They seem to really like taking Tigers sort of up-and-coming superstars from them. Think of Josh Adokar. But when it comes to a forward, Bellamy knows forwards. He knows how to put them in roles, to do a very simple role. Do this. This is exactly what I need you to do. If you're not doing that, you're not doing what you need to do for the team. And basically, he's done the same thing here for Utoik Manu. I mean, we've all said it. We've all said we know what this guy can do. And he's come out and done it. And in fact, you just mentioned Josh King. I thought he was very quiet today, to be completely honest with you. He played 50 minutes. He only took 8 runs for 62 meters, which is a very Josh King-like. He doesn't really tend to do that. But Utoik Manu took the brunt of it. He seemed to have actually kind of stepped up his game in relation to helping out, because he took 16 runs for 133 meters. Great meters from a prop.
100%. It was a huge game for Stefano. As I said, without him laying that platform, I don't know if the big four we're giving him as many reps, because he did free up a lot, and Katoa did it as well. At least Katoa was great. Liera I thought was really good as well. There was a lot of forwards who did have underrated good game and allowed the Storm to do what they do and do it best. So for Manly, I know they're without Turbo. I know they were without mental blank on what his name is. The prop Taniela Paseka.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paseka.
Yeah,
Hit that was big loss as well. But they'd be disappointed. But I know their hooker's out as well, but he's been out pretty much all year. So Croker, it was a worrying display, because again, they just couldn't match him early on. And that was my biggest hang on moment, where I just thought, at home at Brookie, where we know they just grow an extra leg, that was worrying that they didn't and they couldn't, and they just let the Storm as if they were playing at Amy Park. That for mine, when you're playing at home, that's an insult. You can't allow the away team to feel like they're playing at home.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Melbourne Storm seems to not care whether it's a home or away game. That's why I never factor that in when I tip. When it comes to them, I actually tend to depend. There's very few teams that I will do that for. Like Canberra Raiders is one of them. But when you talk about the Storm, you just expect them to win wherever they go, so you don't stress too much about that. But you are right. Brookie's their home. They had their fans out there to come out and cheer them on and things like that. And like we said, the Storm just took them out of it. And I just don't think they had any answers. The answer was bring your line speed up and make your tackles. And don't just make your tackles. you can't just make your tackles against the Melbourne Storm, right? You have to be physically up for it, and you have to actually win your tackles against the Melbourne Storm. If you aren't doing that, they're going to get over you, because if you're just dragging them down, they're quick enough that they will just be on the mark on 100%, ready to take you down at any time. Biggest thing for me about Manly, it feels like we talk about this every year. It feels like we've talked about this every year for the last few years. Yes, they can put points on the board. Yes, they can dominate teams in their day. But why does that disappear? Where does it go? Right? They do this every year where they have these rocks and diamonds seasons. They can win a game by 1 million. They can lose a game by 1 million. And there seems to be no in between. They're not just winning or just losing games. It's either they get pumped or they pump another team. They need to figure out some sort of resilience in these types of games where they are getting flogged. And I don't know what it is, whether it's the coaching or what. I have no answer for that. They need to figure something out where they aren't giving up immediately after they start to lose.
That's I kind of felt the same in a way. That's sort of what I felt like they did, and just sort of put it straight away in the too hard basket. I know they came back a little bit. They put 24 points on the board, and people will say they wouldn't have done that if they gave up. Like it's harsh to say a team gives up. I want to ask the question though, because it's going to get asked a lot this week by the media and the media podcasts and stuff like that. So I'm going to get on the front foot and ask it and just clear the air with it. Do you think this was the start of the DCE drama at the club and the negative effect it may have on the playing group? And what I mean by that, and I'll go back to the fact that when the news broke, it was admitted that not all the playing group was made aware of this when it was happening. And I'm just thinking, if I'm a player in there and I wasn't notified about this, my club captain, and he went on air and did it all, I would be shitty. I would not be happy with that. And and it was straight away, as soon as I heard that, I thought about it this year. And I just thought that's cost Manly any chance of having a good title run this year. I haven't gone off that thought either. I still think it's going to have at some point, and this might be the cracks, the cracks starting to show. I know, and everyone will message us. I already know what the message is going to be like. They had no turbo. They had the injuries, blah, blah, blah. But it was the style of which this was lost. And it just makes me feel like maybe it's the start of that drama catching up to this squad and the effects of the squad, which I don't know.
It's definitely an interesting one, because you have to take into consideration who they were versing, the opponents that they had, and how good they are. But if you take that out of the equation, what do you say, or how do you expect your playing group to respond to you as a captain? So DCE was their captain. How do you expect your playing group to respond? Let's say that the Storm's just gone in, they scored a try nice and early. DCE comes in and they're all huddled around in the try zone or the try area, and he has to give them some sort of speech or give them something to get them up, right? How do you as a player respond, especially after what's happened? Do you go, why should I listen to you? Do you go, yes, sir, yes, sir, let's go and do this thing? And I think we're going to need to wait. I reckon, 2 more games. And I know it's if I had to say anything, I'll say yes. I'm going to throw it out there and say yes. I think that this maybe is a bit of a start of some poor games to come through in the next maybe 5 games. I want to give them 2 more. 2 more games will prove it. Because 1 game against the Storm, look, Storm could pump anyone on their day. Storm could flog any team in this competition on their day, especially right now with the Panthers being the way they were. That's the only team I'd say they probably couldn't have done that to before. They probably could at this point, where they're at the moment. If they verse the Storm, I'd be very worried as a Panthers fan, just putting that to the side. You need to see them verse 2 other teams to see how they respond to adversity under their captain.
100%. And this weekend, I can't wait, because it's against the Sharks at Cronulla. I'm very keen to see how both teams respond, and more so Manly, because to be fair, I don't think Manly were great last week either. I think they got a win over Parra, where if they versed mostly any other team in the competition last week, I don't think they win. They weren't great. So I'm just interested, and it's obviously going to happen for the rest of the year now. It's going to be the storyline. So whether you like it or not, Manly fans, it's going to be spoken about a lot everywhere you look, everywhere you listen. It's going to be there because of how this has been handled. And there is still people out there that think it was the right way. There's people out there that think it was the wrong way. And there's all this other fuzziness in the middle. But see how we go there. But moving on, the last game was tonight. The Bulldogs 20 defeating the Knights 0. Very tough, gritty game, especially to start the game. I thought it was almost a defensive masterclass by both teams to start this game. The first half was an old-fashioned battle, which was really nice to see, to be honest with you. I love seeing that the defense both teams are throwing plenty at each other, but the defense was winning every time. So that's good. That was, you don't always need a 30 points to 20 game to enjoy it. I enjoyed that part of it. On the Knights, funnily enough, I know they lost the game by 20 points, but I think their defense overall for a lot of it was good. Like that was a game where, again, you look at the scoreline, you sit in the shed, you're going, oh man, wasn't a good game. But I feel like it was a decent game by the Knights. And this is a team where many of us predicted them to come last this year. From what I've seen so far, they're not that. They're not a last place outfit. And a last place outfit wouldn't have defended like they did tonight. A last place outfit would have conceded 50 tonight because the Dogs were all over them for a lot of this game, and they continued to withstand everything. They lost 2 players inside, 2 minutes of the game. They lost Saifidi. That was huge. I can't be too critical of the Knights in this one, Jake. I really can't.
No, you can't be too critical. I mean, especially they went into the first at the end of the first half. They went into halftime down 2-0, right? So what we've said about the Bulldogs so far, and I'll get to the Knights. I'll explain this and where I'm going with this in a second. What we've said about the Bulldogs so far is that they have this ability to drag teams down to their level and play their style of football and things like that. It felt like the Knights went with them willingly. It felt like they went with them into their style of football, but they were happy to be down in the mud and play down in that, in that dirt style of just sticking with them. Don't give up. Keep it going. Second half, though, I do not know what Serraldo said to the Bulldogs in that shed at halftime, but geez, did he stick a rocket up their ass. Because I tell you what, the Knights, it was basically what we just said. The Knights didn't have an answer the second half. But yeah, you can't be too critical of them for a half of football. The game goes for 80 minutes, and I think that they did turn off. I think they shut down, Second half, the Bulldogs came at them with intensity, and they didn't meet that intensity. That's all that happened. Bulldogs came at them with every intensity. They've gone, right, we're going to try and get on top of them, get over them early. If the Knights had endured that for 5-10 minutes, I reckon it goes back into a scrap fest again, and it goes back into that sort of that closer type of game. But they just didn't. They didn't withhold from there, and basically the Bulldogs got over them from there. Which I think that's where I'm critical. They after that halftime, they had the game within a winnable area, and they really just kind of went, "Oh, well, we played a good half of football. Sweet, let's go home. Let's go home. I'm hungry. Want to feed."
Ponga was very quiet. The Dogs did a great job of nullifying his threat. And I mentioned it last week in the podcast with the Supercoach boys. I was like, don't even go near captaining Ponga because I just think the Dogs will absolutely smother him, make him feel like he can't breathe. And he was still trying. Like, he had 22 runs, but he for 97 run meters. So not ideal at all.
NRL app is 20 for 78, but same thing.
Yeah.
Either way. So
it was just the Dogs did a great job of nullifying him. Even Sharp, for instance, their attacking threats just had nothing. And I think that's more of a credit to the Bulldogs and this performance, where I know the Bulldogs have been good this year. They're obviously the only undefeated team, and they're getting excited, and rightly so. They're back to that Dogs of war type mentality, that brick wall, you're not going to get through us. And I know the start of the year, their defense wasn't where it probably was last year, but they're quickly back to just being that team. Like they're without Burton and Kickout still, and they're just relentless. They just continued to just show up for each other all night, and I'm finding it very hard to explain how good this performance was by the Bulldogs. It wasn't exciting at all. It wasn't a performance that you'll remember
Well,
probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. You'll quickly forget about this win just because it was one of those games. But from a Dogs point of view or a Dogs fan, this is the one that excites me the most so far because of how they did it.
yeah, I do agree. The biggest thing, like I just said, that we've talked about with the Bulldogs this season and even last season was just their grit, their resilience, their just willingness to stay in the fight, and that's an exciting quality to have in a team. Especially as a fan, it's what you want to see in your team, probably more than anything, more than that attacking flair style like the Storm and that, being able to put the points on the board from anywhere in the field is grit in defense and just not letting that happen to you, not letting yourself get put that amount of points on the board to you. I love that. Like, I think that if you're a Doggies fan, you're flying right now. One thing we sort of said at the start of the season with the Bulldogs, it wasn't something we said. It was a question we asked, or it was a question I asked you, which was, are they going to be the Warriors of 2024 compared to the Warriors of 2023? So, like, the whole up the wires movement and all that happened, and the way we kind of discussed it, I think that what the conclusion we kind of came to was there was no reason for them to. They shouldn't do that, and they've still got this whole pack. They still get them believing. It's still fresh. As long as Serraldo doesn't run out of ideas and that stuff like that, then it should be fine. They've been playing now 2 games now without 2 of their best players, and I know they got Carraz back this week, but last week without 3 of their best players, and they're getting wins on the board. That is the most important thing. And like I said to you earlier in this podcast, the best teams don't win pretty. The best teams win. And the Bulldogs have been winning. That, for me, qualifies them as one of as at the moment, the best team in the comp, probably.
It's a shout out to the organization. It's a shout out to the club. It's a shout out to everyone. A huge shout out there to the fans as well, because watching that on a Thursday night, a horrible time slot. I think I heard at one point it was close to 30,000 or something there. And it was at ANZ, what it used to be called ANZ. It's not a great ground to watch football. I get it. The atmosphere is often lost as well. But even watching it, if I could feel the energy there, and that's a great credit there to the fans who brought that in. I've got no doubt there was times where that was a slog, and there was times where the Dogs players probably lent on that support. They could feel that energy. And that's something that will now go with them for the rest of the year because they've got them on board. They're turning into a juggernaut of a club where you just know what you're going to get each and every week. And as long as they have that support, they're going to be so hard to beat. You're going to have to be at the top of your game to come away with the victory against the Bulldogs this year.
Oh, absolutely. To be honest with you, yeah, they're just going to scrap with any team that they come up against, and they're just going to stay in that dogfight again and again. And you know who that reminds me of? Panthers.
Yes.
That reminds me of the Panthers.
Funny Serraldo was there.
Oh, it's funny that, isn't it? It's funny that the ability that the Panthers had for so many years to just stick in the fight and just to never let, even teams when teams did get ahead of them, which was rare. I do understand that, but when teams did get ahead of them and kind of had that grindy thing, the Panthers just stayed in it and stayed in it. Yet we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. We're going to be fine until they won, and that's what the Bulldogs feel like this year. So you know what? Credit to Serraldo more than anything, I think, is doing what he said he was going to do, and he's showing that assistant coaches of teams that are successful can become successful coaches. And I hope that Ross looks at, sees that and takes some confidence just quietly. But
just to finish up, and it's off the cuff, didn't give you any pre-warning about this, so it's all good. Tell me the team that impressed you most this week and the team that disappointed you the most.
Let me look through. We have got I'll say the team that disappointed me the most, to be honest with you, this week was the Panthers. I thought against the Cowboys, who have had a slow start to the year, who haven't done much. Everyone was saying, they're probably going to get the spoon here. We were all talking about when are they going to get their first win, and I understand that they got that last week, but Panthers, I think for mine should have won it. And most impressed with, if I have to be technical about it, I'll say the Storm, but come on the Eels. Come on the Eels. We got the first win on the board. I'll go the Eels just for that.
Titans were the most disappointing. Just that bounce back after a really good win last week. Just so deflating. I feel for the Gold Coast fans, a few of you that are out there. For the one that most impressive, I'm gonna say the Bunnies. Like, to lose both your halves, your halfback after a minute or so of football, 2 minutes of football, to then lose your 5/8 and your lead sort of playmaker and one of your lead players, to then come away with the win against your arch rivals. That's a huge win. Really, really impressed with that. And again, it's only something that Wayne Bennett could probably do. So well done there to the Bunnies. But that is it. Huge show once again. Thank you to everyone for listening. If you got through it, let us know. Let us know all your comments again on anything that we spoke about throughout the podcast. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. You already know it by now. Social media as well. Go type in League of Inches. Find us on pretty much all of it. Give us a follow. There, it does go a really long way of helping support us. We really do appreciate it. We'll catch you Tuesday night for the live show. They've been huge. They've been building. They've been getting bigger and bigger, every single one. You all love the draft teams as well that we're doing. That will feature. We've got the centers this week to do, so really keen to rip into that. But for now, goodbye. Thank you for listening. We will see you on Tuesday night.